Fantastic. So great. So we're live with Carl Wolfe of Moon Guitars and Black 35 Guitars, right? Now?
That's right.
Great. Awesome. Well, welcome to the interview.
Thanks for having me, man.
Great. Awesome. Well, let's go straight into it. I guess, how did you get started with guitars?
So when I was 15, I had a study hall or something from a class, and a buddy of mine showed me Eruption by Eddie Van Halen, and that was like my awakening into the world of guitar and really music. I was only really listening to like pop stuff on the radio at the time, but I started playing guitar, and then I think maybe 6 months later, started working in my cousin's repair shop, learning what a guitar actually is and how it works and all that kind of stuff. And that went on for a few years, basically through high school. I did repairs kind of on the side while I was in college. While I was working other jobs, I was doing repairs as like a second job until 2017. I had started building a couple guitars here and there, mostly for myself, stuff that I didn't see other people making because it was custom and my weird taste. I posted this gold Explorer that I made for myself, that my wife, my then girlfriend, had bought me some of the stuff to start and kind of fueled this passion. But it got to this point where people were coming over to pick up and drop off repairs and seeing my guitars that I had made for myself hanging on the wall, and they started offering to buy them. And I think that was really the catalyst that, my brain said, oh, I could just do that. I really like the building, and, not that I dislike doing repair work. I just, like this more. So I went, started the business, was doing it, part-time still for a little while. I was also working in a wood shop making bars and doors and cabinets and all that kind of stuff. But eventually went full-time with Moon, and eventually stopped doing repairs at all and entirely just building stuff.
Cool. Awesome. And how about your new biz, the Black 35?
Black 35 kind of fell into my lap a little bit. I'm from New Jersey. The former owner of Black 35, also from New Jersey, is a New Jersey company. We kind of started our companies close to around the same time. He had formerly owned a drum company, Dark Horse Drums, and started this guitar company. But a few years ago, he had, I don't remember if he hit me up through Instagram or if he had found me from Google and looking at New Jersey guitar companies. But he hit me up and had me sign an NDA at the time to start making some of his stuff. Because a lot of what he was doing was ordering bodies and necks and then modifying them and finishing them and doing that kind of thing. So I was making some of the stuff for him until beginning of this year. He started looking into retiring because he's also a music teacher. He's got kids at home. He was just, doing all these things and getting no time at all to spend with his family as this business kept growing. So again, he hit me up like, hey, man, do you want to just take this over and do it in tandem with what you're already doing? You kind of already know the business from the back line. And we kind of worked out a deal that, made sense for both of us. So he'll be staying on through the end of the year doing artist relations because he has some bigger names attached to the brand. I just started July 1st, starting to take that stuff all over. So now I'm running Moon and Black 35 all out of my basement here. And as you can hopefully see, it is absolutely chaos in here.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is maybe a little bit of a trickier question, but what's the difference between Black 35 and Moon? I mean, other than the name.
I think there's a lot of little things really, but I think it's two entirely different vibes. And I think that's why me and that former owner, Anthony, I think it's why we got along so well in the first place. Is it never really felt like competition or like I was making guitars for a competitor, because the Moon stuff is all very boutique. It's this pretty shiny quality. I'm using exotic woods, and I'm trying to get these flawless looking finishes. Everything's real polished, and you know, I don't want to say I'm intentionally making them to look expensive, but that's kind of the idea. You know, they're nice, and I want them to, you know, last and kind of be a PRS type quality guitar, like a custom shop PRS. The Black 35 stuff is, I don't want to say the opposite and imply that it's bad, because they're not bad. They're really awesome, but they're, what was the phrase we used when I interviewed Anthony the other day? They're a guitar that you'd buy and you wouldn't be afraid to put the first scratch on it. You know,
Right.
you'd open up a case with a Black 35 in it and pull it out and be like, all right, I can beat the hell out of this thing. You know, I can throw it on stage. If it gets a beer spilled on it, whatever, no big deal. You know, they're workhorse, more simple guitars too. A lot of times the Black 35 stuff has a wraparound bridge, a single pickup, usually a P90, and like a lot of times just a volume, not even a tone, but just real simple workhorse guitars that are also at a more accessible price point. So, you know, the Moon stuff is usually starting around $29.99 now. Black 35 is $1,000 plus less than that. So two totally different price points for people, two totally different vibes, because a lot of the Black 35 stuff is other companies' shapes and inspirations more than with Moon, where I'm, you know, constantly trying to reinvent the wheel.
Right. I mean, the one of the signature models of the Moon, I remember I saw it on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, nice performer, man. You know, I have a thing for like those weird fenders, right?
Yeah, that
You know.
was kind of the guitar that started, I don't want to say my aesthetic so much as like my brand cohesion was the Fender Performer. I put up a blurb on my website about it. If you go to the Moon Elite page, which is the model that you mentioned, where when I first started Moon, I had emailed the luthier that worked at Fender in the 80s that designed the Fender Performer. And I had asked him for tracings of the templates, or if I could get templates, copies of them, if he still had them, because I had read in like an old forum from like 2000 that he had them and would make them for people. And he was super nice. This guy's name is John Page. He's also a really talented luthier. But he had the first prototype templates of the Moon Elite, the Moon Elite, that's what it's called now, the Fender Performer guitar and bass, the expensive versions and the pickguard versions. And he traced all of them and sent them to me. And he said, you know, do whatever you want, as long as you don't make replicas of the originals. I don't, you know, I'm happy to see it kind of take on a new life. And that, you know, I used the bass version for my guitar model, but the horns and the general kind of offset 80s Steve Vai, Eddie Van Halen type vibe kind of became my whole brand from there. And now every design more or less starts with those horns, and I kind of work backwards from there when I'm, you know, designing a new model.
Cool. Very, very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I still remember I saw it. Oh, former. Nice. And then of course, I think it's it's a reasonably uncommon model. I think, you know, so there's a lot of people like, Fender made that. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to have one just in the shop for, I mean, obviously I would like to own one because I like them, but even to be able to put up a comparison of, you know, that original versus what I make now, to do a more in-depth, like, all right, this is very much in the same vein as people who like to copy Leo Fender, or, you know, take his designs and kind of build on them. I feel the same way about John Page with that guitar. I would love to, you know, be able to point out the specifics of, all right, I changed this, I updated this was good originally and didn't need to be updated, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they're coming up in pricing though, but everything is now.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's super tricky. Like we were talking a little earlier about my pricing, but you know, it's getting so weird to try and keep everything updated, as I get like weekly emails from different vendors saying like, all right, we increased everything 2%.
So yeah, so I guess yeah, so we're talking about the performer and how you like uh, one of the originals in, and pricing's
Oh yeah.
always going up,
Hmm. Yeah.
especially from suppliers. Yeah. So I guess getting back into the swing of things, how do you feel now about sort of supply chains? Because I heard about people not being able to ship guitars because they don't have cases, or like suddenly you don't have tuners.
Yeah. Cases are still the hit or miss thing for me. I've gotten a bit luckier, I think, with most hardware, tuners, bridges, pickup rings, screws, all that kind of stuff. Pickups for the most part have been pretty quick too, but cases, uh, it's either use super cheap cases off of Amazon that may or may not fit my shapes because some of them are a little, weirdly sized.
Hmm.
Or, I've been waiting on a big order of cases from Gator for 2-3 months now, and earlier this year I waited like 6 months before I actually gave up, canceled the order, and did wind up going with some cheaper cases. So that stuff's a little sketchy. And I started my business, I started Moon with no capital, just the tools I had built up over the years from doing repair work.
Hmm.
So I don't have the kind of money to throw around to like just throw in a big preventative order and get like, a
Yeah.
couple $1,000s worth of cases and just have them ready. Cause I also don't have the space. I'm working out of my house, and I'd have to lose a whole room of my house if I wanted a stack of cases in here,
Yeah. Yeah. I think storage is also a problem, right? Like your
Yep.
woods, and how do you put them, what goes
Yep.
on top of what.
I'm
Yeah.
meticulous about humidity control in here. Um, I'm again, it's kind of nice working out of a basement because it doesn't fluctuate as much as
Mhm.
being upstairs where doors are opening, windows are opening, whatever.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I only have so much space. So if I have however many orders down here, and I've posted a couple times, I got like big orders of roasted swamp ash or mahogany or whatever.
Mhm.
If I don't mill that stuff up real quick and get it into my storage rack, I have no room to exist down here. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
tricky.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess because you mentioned a little bit about sort of the overall vibe of the Black 35 and the Moon
Mhm,
guitars, and you mentioned a little bit about the finish on the Moon guitars, trying to get them just so, just perfect. Because
mhm.
Black 35 is maybe a little bit more of a distressed finish.
Yep.
I'm just wondering sort of what sort of finishes you use and what's your process like.
So I stopped doing finishes in house beginning of 2021, I think, if I'm remembering that correctly. I think I struggled with a couple of finishes that I wound up redoing like 3 or 4 times here in 2020. But I was using polyurethane for the most part, um, as much as I can. Lacquer can be a bit too finicky for New Jersey. I think the humidity is constantly, up and down and all over the place. And if it's not perfect for nitro lacquer, you get blushing, or you get these weird blistering type issues. So eventually I caved, and to also save myself space, because what was happening was I'd have to limit an entire week to, all right, I either can make dust or I have finished drying. But now, right now I have JGP custom guitars doing my finishes for Moon, and those are all poly. He's just an absolute wizard. I have no idea how he gets some of these finishes so clean and so like mirror like.
Mhm.
Uh, but the Black 35 stuff, on the other hand, is entirely lacquer. All of
Mhm.
them, for the same uh, reason we just talked about, to get that distressed, appropriately like vintage beat up look, you have to use lacquer because of how it shrinks,
Mhm.
to get it to check correctly and to get
Mhm.
it to wear away correctly. Because poly and things like that will kind of
Mhm.
flake more than checking the way lacquer does. So
Yeah.
now I'm using everything.
So are you doing the Black 35 in-house, or are they?
I'm going to, as much as I can, there's going to be some stuff that, um, either based on volume or just based on time, because of what they're priced at. I'm going to try and do as much as I can in-house, but I do have a painter in Maryland that is working on a secret moon for me right now that is getting a whole distressed, cool 80s vibe that will be able to do some of that overflow work for me too if I need to.
Yes, that's great. And I know that there has been some discussion, shall we say, about, should everything be done in-house or should stuff be outsourced? And I mean, I feel that personally, I think if somebody can do it, can do some of the components better, then that's probably for the best. There should still be a degree of in-house work, otherwise it's just assembly work. But and one extreme of that is obviously the tuners, right? Like you're not going to make your own tuner. It's just impractical, right? So if and people say, oh, but it's not critical component. No, tuner is very critical. It's a critical component on a.
If it touches the strings, it's critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you allow that for the tuners, then at what level do you say that's where I think I want to do it in-house, or I don't want to do it in-house? So I guess what's your take on that?
I am very much of the camp or of the mindset to pay people what they're good at, because I think guitars get oversimplified, and probably largely because of the bigger companies. People are so used to what Fender has been doing, what Gibson has been doing, what Ibanez has even been doing for years and years now, that I think people maybe don't appreciate how much skill can go into the different areas of lutherie and guitar making. I don't know. I've never been I need to do it all myself guy. I'm a little bit of a control freak, and I do like to be able to have a say in every step. But finish work is its own art. There are painters that just paint. Like they'll paint everything, or they'll just paint cars and be very good at that. I mean, if you Google guitar finishing, there's anybody that will show up on that first page of Google is booked for the whole year and is swimming in work and not struggling to make ends meet, because they're good at it. You go find them for a reason. And I think pickups fall in that camp too. Again, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but pickups, it's such a specific science and art that you can either do it really well, or you just make pickups. And I think pickups are also one of the first things that most guitar hobbyists, that might actually be too diminutive, but most guitarists at all, if you buy a guitar, you really like how it feels, you don't quite like how it sounds, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to swap the pickups. Right. So I've never cared about making my own pickups, because if people don't like them, they're just going to change them. So, and it's also, I mean, from a demo perspective, which is, I know, an area that I'm lacking in, but I'm working on that. Having a demo, a whole guitar, and then also the pickups, I feel like is too much. Whereas if I'm using pickups that there's plentiful YouTube demos for, then you kind of already know what my guitar is going to sound like, because there's demos you can look at for those pickups, right? We could get into the tone wood debate if you want, but I hope at least in the year of our Lord 2022 that most people realize it's at least a minor factor in the equation, if at all.
How dare you?
There's no magic wood, I've never cared about having to make everything in-house, and I think you nailed it. If you can do it better than what you could pay somebody else to do, then I don't know why you wouldn't. But I mean, it's a time saver, it's a space saver, and I think that's really critical for, even if you're doing triple the volume I'm doing. There's going to be stuff everywhere, and if you have to worry about bodies not getting knocked into or scratched or dusty or whatever, You have to worry about magnets not getting degaussed or interfering with other stuff you've got in the shop, or it's one less thing to worry about. And I think that's important because it lets me at least put focus into other details that maybe other people aren't putting as much focus into, whether that's how the neck feels or your fretwork, setup. Even I know some guys that just kind of slap it together and send it out there and hope for the best and say, take it to your tech and get him to set it up. That's not my responsibility.
Oh man,
I hate that.
yeah. I know what you mean. I think that's why I think in many cases when I speak to people about electrics, kind of it's almost like 4 or 5 disciplines in one, because you've got all the metalwork kind of thing, which is more like your hardware, your tuners. Excuse me. Then you've got the pickups, which is like this voodoo thing,
Yep.
And then you've got like the finish, which is its own little thing, right? Which is its own thing. Sorry, not little thing, big thing. It's its own thing. And then you've got the woodworking, right? Then you've got like the pocket fit and stuff like that. And I've been, and usually discussions, look, most people can do 3, maybe 4 things really well. But it's very rare that somebody can do all 5 things in-house really, really well. So, the 5th thing obviously is all the metalwork, right? Because that's a really, really specialized thing. So,
and if you're one of the people that can do everything in-house, I mean, I know a guy, my good friend Les Godfrey, he helped me design my Troublemaker model and my Crescent Moon model. He does everything himself. He makes some of his own bridges, like you name it, he can do it on a guitar entirely by himself, and he's incredible at it. But to be fair to him, he needs to charge a lot more money than other people do because he's doing all that work himself, and it takes so much time, and rightfully so. How much time went into his learning to be good at all that, so that's one thing I think people don't consider, and this is something I've gone on social media and ranted about, was what guitars should cost, and if you're paying an independent builder to make you something, not thinking of what a factory guitar would cost in comparison, because it's just an entirely different world of time there.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. Well, time is getting a little bit short, so maybe we can just sort of start wrapping it up by asking, what's next on the horizon for you?
Oh boy, I wish I knew. I mean, I have 2 guitar companies now. I don't really know what's on my bucket list at this point. I do know that I will not be at NAMM. I actually don't know when the next NAMM is. I know they bumped the 1 winter, 2 summer now, and they keep moving things around, which they should. NAMM is notorious for getting sick at, and there's never been a better time to get sick than now. But I would like to go to NAMM, have a booth, especially now that I have the 2 companies and I can have, kind of my own split booth of boutiqueness and kind of meet up with all the other builders and artists that I've met over the years. That's my big bucket list thing. Otherwise, I'm probably going to continue to get distracted and design new models and have way too many options for people. But if things continue to trend the way they have been, which is in a positive direction, fingers crossed, hopefully I'll be moving out of the basement into an actual bigger shop sooner than later. I hope.
Awesome. Well, we hope that all works out super quick and super smooth for you. And,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat, and we'll catch up soon. We'll do maybe some guitar tours, and you can show off your amazing guitars. And
thank
the
you, man.
Ep35 also equally amazing.
They're pretty cool. They're all right.
They're just not performer amazing, right? Sorry, elite.
Exactly. Got it. It's
Yeah,
called the elite for a reason.
Cool. Well, thank you so much again. Have a great day.
You too, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll just stop the recording and we go from there.